Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the June and last meeting of the so-called season of Ozark. After today's meeting, we take a break for July and August, and then we resume again in September. We'll talk more about that later. I'd like to introduce, first off, again, I think I already introduced myself, but Joan Buravoy, I'm chair of Ozark. Susan O'Brien is secretary of Ozark. Mark Lewis is acting vice chair. Did I get that
Welcome
right? Vice or
aboard,
co?
Geneva, is it?
Of Ozark. Colleen Cox can't be with us today, but she's like a consultant to Ozark. Colleen was in various positions on the board and now just serves as a consultant to us. Jay Wachowski, he is the Comro representative. Rob Spencer is communications director for OSA, and Megan Wolfsey is assistant to Bob Krogan and again helps us out with these meetings. We're just going to make a quick little change to the agenda. First, we're going to have the Comro report by Jay Wachowski.
I appreciate the timing change.
And I apologize. So Jay just has some of the personal commitments. Commitments. He's going to make his presentation. If there aren't any questions, we are going to have to hold off on those till after the formal presentation by the Alzheimer's Association. So just please be aware of that write your questions down and we'll take them after the formal presentation. Go ahead, Jay.
Or certainly put them in the chat and we'll definitely get back to them by email.
Good.
Hi, nice to see you. Aside from being the Comro delegate, I'm also one of the two pension analysts, if you will, for the union. So welcome to the new pensioners. Welcome to the old pensioners like us. And if you still need help, if anything about getting your pension started, feel free to call the office and we'll get a hold of one of us, either John Mazzarella or myself. We'll talk you through the process. Because the pension takes probably close to a year to get finalized and set up. Okay, Comro, for the newbies, is the Council of Municipal Retiree Organizations, and we have representatives from state and city organizations that serve in the New York area, including MTA and police and fire and CUNY professors and supervisors, administrators, and the Managerial Association. Today, we had a guest speaker, Barry Kaufman, who is the director of the New York State Association of Retired Americans, NYSERA. And many of us are members of NYSERA. NYSERA represents about 600,000 people who are retirees, not just public service retirees, but retirees. And it's nonpartisan, except that we're partisan for retired Americans. Not Republican, Democrat, but what's good for retired Americans, because again, what's good for retired Americans is good for the entire economy. He spoke generally about the travesty of the legislation that's going through in the 2025 plan, which has been promulgated by certain nefarious groups. Amongst other things, the specific clauses in that plan are to outlaw all public service unions, empower all the states to eliminate all public service unions, and perhaps replace all civil service employees, first in the federal government and eventually in the state governments, with pure patronage political appointees. Back to the future, going back to the McKinley administration. We spoke extensively about the attack on Medicare and Medicaid and SNAP, formerly known as food stamps. The way to fund it, the big story being the big lies that are being promulgated about Medicare. Medicare is not going out of business. Medicare does not cost the federal government a penny. And in fact, all the layoffs of Medicare staff, of Social Security staff rather, have absolutely nothing to do with this funding Social Security. It's just to make Social Security more inconvenient for consumers, for us. Understanding in the current great bill that's being promulgated in Washington, the 25% tax cuts will go to the top 1% of income earners in this country. That's not us. Civil service employees in New York typically are in pretty good shape nationwide, vis-a-vis the nation. But still, we're not in that 1%. The massive, massive, massive cuts that are being proposed nationwide will affect New York State much more drastically, and surprisingly enough, will hit the upstate and rural areas more drastically than it will urban dwellers. Just the nature of how funding streams work, the fact that we can walk 3 blocks and hit a hospital, whereas upstate, it might be 300 miles to the nearest hospital. Understand also the budget, the New York State Office of the Aging, the seniors budget is 0.2% of the statewide budget bill. So much for Comro. We just discuss all these issues, and all of us advocate to correct these problems. Let me go change hats quickly to the union hat. Anybody who is not quite retired yet, who might be on, or you have your colleagues are retiring soon, or you've got somebody new in your unit who is new to the city service or mid-career, we are, John Mazzarella and I are conducting Zoom seminars starting next week for pre-retirement, and a Zoom seminar for basic pension and retirement. So watch the mailing and watch the flyers, and I welcome any questions at any time. Hit them into the chat, and we'll get right to them. Thank you for letting me jump the gun and jump the agenda, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Joan, you're muted.
Joan, you're back on.
Today's presentation is on healthy living for your brain and body.
This is John Manning.
John, put yourself on mute. Good. Okay. So today's meeting presentation is on healthy living for your brain and body by the coordinated with Joon Her, who Joon is there with the purple background. Joon is a program manager at the Alzheimer's Association, the New York City chapter. Joon and his colleague, who he'll introduce, were actually presented to us, I think, in April regarding just what explaining to us about what Alzheimer's and dementia are. And when we learned that they have this presentation about healthy living for the brain and body, we thought that would be very useful and informative. So I am going to turn the meeting over to Joon. Welcome.
Great. Thank you so much, Joan. And thank you, everyone, for inviting us back to do another presentation to you all. Just like Joan mentioned, my name is Joon Her. I'm one of the program managers. I do a lot of these education programs, of course, in collaboration with some of our community educators like Hong today, who actually did our spring presentation together for this group as well. So a lot of the topics that we're going to talk about today is healthy living for your brain and body. Just very fitting because it's also Alzheimer's and Brain Health Awareness Month as well as Pride Month too. So June is a very busy time for the Alzheimer's Association because everyone wants to learn about brain health during this month. And thankfully, we're able to make some time for this group today. So I'm going to pass it on to Hong. I do want to note that if you do have any questions, we're going to save them all towards the end, just for the interest of time. And I will definitely be able to address all the questions that you have either in chat or when you unmute at the end. So thank you, everyone. And I'm going to give it to Hong.
Thank you, June. And thank you, Joan, and then for having us today. So as June introduced me, so we had the earlier presentation, I think in the spring. So today we're going to talk about healthy living for your brain and the body. And then just give me 1 second. I'm going to share the screen and set it up. And also like some housekeeping because I need to leave the chat at 1:30 sharp. So if I won't be able to finish the slides, my colleague June is going to take over from where I leave, and he's going to take over the Q&A as well. Okay. All right, let me share my screen. All right. Okay, I'm sharing. Is everyone seeing my screen now?
You might need to put it in full screen mode first, though.
Yeah, I'm going to do that now. So I'm also sharing sound. I just want to check. It's okay.
Yes, we see it.
Yeah, is it okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay,
Yes, it's up
perfect.
now.
All right, let's get it going. So welcome, and then so I'm a volunteer, a community educator volunteer with the Alzheimer's Association New York chapter, actually. I work with the program manager like June himself to present this kind of workshops and webinars, and sometimes I also do in-person presentations for communities like you guys. So welcome. Today we're going to talk about healthy living for your brain and body. So this program is intended to provide you with science-based recommendations about taking care of your brains and bodies. So we'll share stories and offer some tips on how to make small changes to build healthier habits. We encourage you to think about your health and lifestyle and how you might make changes to live healthier. And this program is intended for anyone who's looking for ways to live well. If you have concerns about or are living with dementia, there are several additional association programs available. So you can find these resources on our website or get in touch with June. So, okay. So today's learning objectives are pretty much like identify how certain behaviors affect our brains and bodies. And then we are going to list strategies for healthy decision making in 7 areas: sleep, smoking, mental health, physical activity, balance the diet, nutrition, and then challenge your brain, which is like pretty much cognitive engagement, and also social interactions, social engagement. So throughout this presentation, you will hear tips for each of these strategies. As we go through these, be sure to think about how you can implement the tips or strategies in your own life. Okay. All right. Okay. First, let's begin by talking about the brain. The brain is the control center of the entire body. It manages everything, including our thoughts and movement. So there are approximately 100 billion nerve cells, which are called neurons in the brain. So they're structured like branches of a tree, creating a network of pathways. So through which signals are sent to form our memories, our thoughts, and our feelings. So many diseases can affect the brain. For example, Alzheimer's progressively destroys brain cells as it moves throughout the brain, affecting more functions as the disease progresses. Okay, We know that the heart and the brain are connected. Now we're going to talk about the heart and brain connection. So basically, or in general, how to summarize the relationship is what is good for the heart is good for the brain. So science is able to tell us why this is true and what we can do to maximize our health. Much of the heart-brain connection is due to the fact that the brain is nourished by the body's richest network of blood vessels. So the oxygen and other elements delivered to the brain through the bloodstream keep the brain nourished. Each time your heart beats, 20 to 25% of the blood are being moved, actually goes to the brain. So that is why keeping the heart in good working order helps keep the brain fueled to do its work. So now we are going to do a quick like a knowledge quiz. So I'm gonna ask you to think, is Alzheimer's a normal part of aging or not? True or false? So like I think based on our spring presentation, I hope like many of you attended that one, should know the answer. So the answer is actually false.
False,
Alzheimer's is a progressive and fatal brain disease. Symptoms usually develop slowly and get worse over time. It is not a normal part of aging. While the greatest known risk factor for Alzheimer's is increasing age, the disease is not a normal part of aging, as I said. So most individuals with the disease are 65 and older. After age 65, the risk of developing Alzheimer's doubles every 5 years. So after age 85, the risk is actually about 1 in 3, pretty high. As we get older, it's common to experience some age-related changes to memory or thinking abilities, such as forgetting where we left something, but finding it later, or sometimes having trouble finding the right word. So this is known as cognitive decline. Dementia is a general term used to describe problems with thinking and memory that are severe enough to interfere with a person's daily life. So this is not normal aging. So dementia is not a normal part of aging. It is caused by damage to brain cells that affects the cell's ability to communicate, which can affect thinking, our also behaviors and the feelings. So Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia. Worldwide, as estimated 55 million people are living with Alzheimer's and other dementias. As we know, there's currently, unfortunately, no cure for Alzheimer's. However, there are drug and non-drug options that can help with symptoms and may have the ability to slow the progression of the disease. So although there are currently no proven methods to prevent cognitive decline or dementia, so research has shown that we can take actions to reduce our risks of developing dementia or Alzheimer's and help maintain or potentially improve our overall health. So now let's look at our health, and then so what are the factors that could affect our health? Many factors can impact health, including our genes, our family history, environment, and our lifestyle. As we age, it is common for us to experience some similar changes, like getting gray hair or wrinkles or needing glasses for reading. These are all normal. But as individuals, we experience getting older in many different ways. So this is due in part to our genes. So genes are beyond our control and influence the way we are. For example, some families' genes allow them to live well into their 90s or even longer, while other families' genes can lead to diseases earlier in life that may shorten their lifespan. So in addition to genes, the environments in which we live, work, and play can also have significant impacts on our health. And many of these are difficult to change and beyond our control. But the good news is there is another factor that actually is within our control. That is actually our lifestyle. So making improvements in these areas could positively affect our overall health, even for individuals with a family history of certain conditions like dementia or heart diseases. changing your lifestyles positively could also have a very good impact. So your blood pressure, blood sugar, weight, and cholesterol levels are all key parts of the story of your overall health, including your brain. If you're familiar with cardiovascular diseases, these are also risk factors or key parts of how to manage your cardiovascular disease. As we said, we just talked about the brain and heart connections. So it is important to understand these numbers and keep an eye on them to manage your health. Okay, so let's look at what the science tells us. Growing research suggests that many factors that increase the risk of heart disease and stroke may also increase the risk of cognitive decline and dementia. There is strong evidence of a connection between midlife high blood pressure or hypertension and later life dementia. So this evidence also shows that controlling blood pressure can have a significant effect on your risk for cognitive decline and possibly dementia. So keeping diabetes controlled is also important. So studies have shown an increase in the risk of cognitive decline and possibly dementia among individuals living with diabetes. Although diabetes has not to this point been proven to cause Alzheimer's disease. Maintaining a life weight is also important. Researchers have found that midlife obesity may be associated with an increased risk of dementia. So we know cholesterol level is also a good indicator of health, which is if you have a good number in this area, that is good for your heart. And as we know, what is good for the heart is also good for the brain. All in all, the best way to combat these health concerns is to know your numbers and keep an eye on them, especially if they change. So talk with your doctor or a healthcare professional to understand what your numbers should be and what they mean for your overall health. Many of the health living strategies we will talk about next have the potential to support you in working to maintain optimal numbers in these areas. Another knowledge quiz quickly. So the question is, it's never too early or too late to incorporate health habits. The answer is quite obvious. That is true. Yeah. People of all ages can benefit from adding in more healthy behaviors. So let's learn about some of them here. So today we'll explore the 7 aspects of healthy living. Getting quality sleep, being smoke-free, taking care of your mental health, getting moving, eating healthy, challenging yourself mentally, and stay connected. So we'll look at what the science tells about changes we can make in each of these areas to help our bodies and our brains. As we touch on each area, think about how you can apply this to your own life. Consider how you can maybe you can do what you enjoy, or you can make gradual changes that are relevant for you and how you live. And then you can start now regardless of your age. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the first strategy is sleep. It's about sleep. So quality sleep is essential for overall health and well-being. Okay, so let's see what the science tells us. So basically, adults should aim for no less than 6 hours of rest per night. Of course, sometimes there may be interruptions from others in your home or noise or other factors that make this difficult. But it is important to try to improve the quality of your sleep when possible. Think about your own sleep habits. Do you get enough sleep? Or importantly, do you get enough quality sleep? What kind of environment helps your sleep? What changes might help you create a more peaceful sleep setting? How can you minimize disruptions? So keeping these questions in mind, we're going to talk through some tips that can help improve sleep quality. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay. Let's start by thinking about the environment. So do you sleep better when you're cooler or warmer? Do you need silence or light noise or music in the background, or do you prefer some light or complete darkness? Also consider what small changes you might make, such as adding maybe more or fewer blankets, or a fan or white noise or temperature control, or maybe a night light or blackout curtains, noise canceling headphones, or a sound machine, depending on your what you prefer. And also, it's important to think about like how like we can minimize or try to minimize any disruptions. Maybe you can sleep in separate space from others, maybe from maybe a partner or pets or other family members may unintentionally cause some disruptions. Maybe it's possible to change others' routine to help yourself. For example, maybe setting different bedtimes or turning off TV noise at a certain time for the whole household. Experts recommend turning off your screens before bedtime, your phones or your iPads, your computers, to help wind down for sleep. If you use your phone for music or an alarm clock, maybe put it out of reach so you aren't tempted to pick it up and look at it, which we normally do. Um, if you frequently experience sleep problems or have sleep apnea, talk with a healthcare professional. Yeah, that's pretty much like the tips that we're, oh, sorry, I missed like showing you this slide, but I talked through this slide. These are the tips that we wanted to share about the sleep. And then the next one. Okay, the next strategy is being smoke-free. So did you know that smoking has a direct impact on the health of your brain? So studies have found that smoking, yes, okay, found that smoking increases the risk of a cognitive decline and may increase the risk of dementia. So the benefits of quitting smoking include a lower risk of heart attack, stroke, and lung disease or cancer, better blood circulation, and avoiding exposing others to secondhand smoke. So quitting smoking, um, good news, this is a good news. So quitting smoking may reduce a person's chance of developing cognitive decline back down to the level of non-smokers. So it is never too late to go ahead with it. Okay. All right. So if you're currently smoking, think about what could help you stop. If you don't smoke, what's helped you stay smoke-free? So these are important questions to think about. And also think about what resources are available online or in your community to help you to stay smoke-free or stop smoking. So here are some tips for being smoke-free. So quitting is very hard. Finding support through quit lines or talk with your doctor or another healthcare professional, or maybe look for a smoking cessation program or strategy that works for you, or maybe find some support groups or friends that you can do this together. So these are all helpful tips that could be used to keep you smoke-free. Okay. The third area that we're going to talk about is your mental health, how to take care of yourself. It is important to prioritize yourself, make time for self-care. It's very, very important. So you may have a lot on your plate, as we do these days. So maybe you care for others or juggling heavy, you know, uh, household responsibility, or maybe dealing with life's other surprises here and there. But do remember that you need to pay attention to your stress level and any symptoms of anxiety, depression, or other mental health concerns. So these affect the health of your brain. Talk with your doctor about how you're feeling, both physically and mentally. Some of the healthy habits we're talking about in this program are good examples of self-care. For example, studies have found that regular physical activity decreases stress, increases your ability to manage stress, and leads to better overall mood. Sleep also contributes to mental health. So these are all related. Let's take a look at how we can take care of our mental health. Make sure that you take time to care for yourself, which is very important, especially if you are caring for others. Even if you are busy with a very full schedule, it helps to take a few moments to give yourself a break. This can help boost your mood and lower your stress level. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Self-care is not selfish. So think about some things maybe you like doing and how you can build some little breaks into your daily schedule. Maybe like do invest some time to think how you can focus on self-care. There are some tips for you. So choose something that makes you happy and feels like a break, even if it's only for a few minutes. You might enjoy maybe taking a nap, maybe only 5 minutes or 10 minutes. That helps. Or sipping some tea, or like maybe drink your favorite drinks, or maybe going for a walk in the park for 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe playing a game or doing some puzzles or reading, dancing, singing, art making, or cooking or baking, or even maybe do some laundry, that could help to calm yourself down. So these are all good things. Just think about like what makes you feel good, and then build these little blocks into your daily schedule is helpful. Okay. Now let's discuss the fourth area of like boosters for your health. Get moving. So there's quite a bit of research on how physical activity affects our brains and helps keep them as healthy as possible. So many studies have found that consistent physical activity is associated with a lower risk of cognitive decline. Some researchers say that if people had to choose one thing to do to improve their brain functioning, it should be physical activity. So evidence suggests that physical activity might directly benefit brain cells by increasing blood and oxygen flow. It may also reduce other dementia risk factors such as high blood pressure and diabetes. So most researchers believe exercise should be regular and on a more vigorous side, things that get the heart pumping and blood flowing. But the other studies have shown benefits from milder activities such as walking or strength training. However, we don't yet have a single recipe for what may work best, but you can explore what works for you. So for most people, any increase in movement is a positive change that can have a positive impact on overall health. Okay. So to get moving, think about what activities. Think about what activities that you can do actually, or you want to try. And also like remember that little changes add up. Research shows that even 20 to 30 minutes of walking a few times a week can have health benefits. So the more important thing is to be as active as you can and to do activities that you enjoy so you can continue to do them within your capabilities. So think about what you can do, what you can, start doing immediately and add to your daily routines. You may want to ask some of your friends or family to join you to help like to build the momentum. And here are some tips to help you get started in incorporating more physical activity into your routine. So if this is new for you, start small and find things that might already be a part of your day. For example, walking around your neighborhood, taking stairs more often, or getting off the bus a stop earlier and then do some walking. And you can also think about what activities you like to do or want to try and try to move quickly or get your heart rate up and break sweat. Tennis or dancing are all great ways to get yourself moving. Yeah, as I said, you can ask your friends to join you. That is also kind of creating double benefits because it also helps you to build social connections, which is also helpful to improve your brain health, as we're going to touch upon this later. Yeah, so that's pretty much about how be creative and then to get yourself physically active. Okay, so we're gonna tap into the fifth areas that is going to improve our overall health. That is nutrition, how to eat healthy. So eating an overall healthy diet actually may reduce your risk of many diseases. Okay, as we already discussed, what's good for the heart is also good for the brain. So the same is true when it comes to the foods we eat. We know that healthy food for the body benefits brain functioning. So eating a balanced diet may reduce your risk of heart disease, cancer, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, stroke, and diabetes, all of these things. But there are many different opinions about what is the best way to eat to maximize health. Research on the relationship between nutrition and cognitive functioning is somewhat limited, but it does point to the benefits of a balanced nutrition and diet. So there are two good examples of this we're going to talk about. One is called DASH, and another one is called the Mediterranean diet. We're going to have a closer look. So DASH actually means dietary approaches to stop hypertension diet. So another one is the Mediterranean diet. So DASH is a flexible and a balanced eating plan. So studies show that DASH diet lowers high blood pressure and improves level of blood lipids, or another term is basically the fats in the bloodstream. So this may reduce the risk of developing cardiovascular disease because the DASH diet is a healthy way of eating. It may also lower the risk of osteoporosis, cancer, heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. And another very popular diet is called Mediterranean diet. I'm sure a lot of you have already heard of it. So this diet incorporates the basics of a healthy eating along with the traditional cooking style of countries bordering the Mediterranean Sea. So a research study demonstrated that following a Mediterranean diet can reduce the risk of death from heart disease and cancer. It may also reduce the risk of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. I want to say that these are just examples. There are others. The important thing is to find the balanced options in the food you eat and the food that is important to your culture. So the diets that have been shown to be more effective have certain things in common. So here you can see key elements from both the diets I just mentioned. You might be pretty familiar with some of these. So take a moment to start thinking about how they fit into the meals you eat regularly or that are important to your culture or family. So the common factors here include incorporating more fruits and vegetables into your daily diet. Some studies indicate that certain fruits, such as berries, may be particularly helpful. And also eating leafy greens or leafy vegetables has been shown to have very good health benefits. And also nuts, beans, whole grains, lean meats, fish, poultry. Yeah, these are all like a commonly known good stuff. So and also like nuts, plant-based oils, particularly olive oils and avocado oils and fish. These are all very good stuff to be incorporated into our daily diets. Another important thing is like to stay away from processed foods, deep fried food, or large amounts of sugar and salt. So I'm sure like we're all very familiar with these suggestions, just like how to incorporate them into our daily diets. We need to understand that making changes to what we regularly eat can be very hard. So let's talk about suggestions on how to make some healthier eating changes work for you. So think about what you can do to cook differently or make your meals healthier. Or maybe think about what healthy foods could you swap in, or like maybe some new foods that you may consider trying or are willing to try. So let's look at some tips for healthy eating. Pretty like straightforward, like use olive oil instead of butter in preparing food, and maybe use sodium-free spice or flavorings instead of salt. Maybe don't add extra salt when cooking rice, pasta, or hot cereal. And also, it's important to read food labels and choose low sodium or no salt added options. And also focus on what you can add instead of what you are taking away, such as adding in fruit as a snack or vegetables to your pasta. And choose plain fresh or frozen or canned vegetables, and build meals around vegetables, beans, and whole grains. And choose fresh or frozen skinless poultry, fish, and lean cuts of meat, etc., etc. And also eat fish more often, preferably a couple of days per week. And use fresh fruits as dessert. These are all good tips that like we can incorporate into our daily life. And it is important to say that like there are many vitamins and supplements available on the market today, but it is important to proceed with caution. So the WHO says that vitamin supplements are not recommended to reduce the risk of a cognitive decline and dementia. Balanced nutrition, like we just discussed, will have the biggest advantage for promoting the health of your body and brain. Yeah, so just like make sure that you read the labels, and then just like be cautious when you're using vitamins or like supplements. If needed, speak to your doctor or a health care professional before proceeding. Yeah. Okay. A quick like quiz again. So true or false, challenging your brain may help lower your risk of cognitive decline. I think the answer is pretty straightforward. That is true. Continuing to challenge our mind as we age may lower the risk of a cognitive decline. So that brings us to the next, and actually the sixth factor we want to discuss, which is challenge yourself, challenge your mind. That will have not only short-term but long-term benefits for your overall brain health. Okay. So what is cognitive engagement? Cognitive or mental engagement is a term that means keeping our minds active. Anything that uses your mind in challenging ways is a cognitive activity and can possibly have benefits for your brain. This can be, and a lot of things. This can be learning new skills, working on a challenging task, or engaging in some, online or like in-person formal learning. So let's take a closer look. So scientists believe that as you use your brain, your mind in new and challenging ways, your brain builds new connections between brain cells. So the more connections you have, the more nimble your brain is, and the better you may be able to guard against the effects of injuries or diseases that can compromise your brain functions. Cognitive engagement encourages blood flow to the brain, and the mentally stimulating activities may possibly maintain or even improve your cognition. So formal education is also very important. Research has shown that engaging in classroom-based learning led by professionally trained teachers will help keep your brain healthy and can protect you from developing dementia. Some researchers believe that this may be due to education creating a more robust network of communication pathways between neurons in the brain. Okay. So some questions to think about. So how can we challenge ourselves? Ask ourselves what new hobbies or skills we want to learn, or are there activities maybe we can think of that sound like a fun challenge to our brain? Or maybe there are some topics that we want to learn and then learn more about. What suggestion would be focus on topics of interest that are challenge for you? What is challenging for one person may not be challenging for another. So just put yourself there and then think about what's best for you. So here are some tips to challenge yourself. One of the best ways to stay challenged and keep your brain as resilient as possible is to engage in activities that require learning new things or solving problems. Here are some general ideas of mentally stimulating activities. So a class at a local college or community center on a new topic or skill, or a new cooking technique, or to learn a new language, or maybe build a new piece of furniture, create something artistic, or maybe learn how to paint or play new instrument, or maybe learn how to play a strategy game like chess. So these are all very good stimulants for our brain. Yeah, okay. So that brings us to our last but not least important factor to consider. The final area that we want to talk about is to stay connected. So connecting with others socially can also have like huge health benefits like for our brain. Okay. All right, let's take a closer look. So there is some research that shows connecting with others may support brain health. Those who regularly engage with other people also tend to have reduced rates of mortality and disability. We know that people don't do well in isolation. So when we feel well connected to others, we tend to make healthier choices in other parts of our lives. Yeah, so let's take a look at the important questions that we should ask ourselves. So there are many ways to connect with others and reap the benefits of social interactions. So do activities that are meaningful to you. So these will provide a greater connection with those around you. Think about how you like to connect with others, or where there might be some new opportunities to do so. Maybe such as like getting involved in your community or joining a club or group. Okay, so tips. So there are a number of ways that we can maintain strong social connections, including volunteering for a cause that is important to you, or scheduling regular phone calls or video chats with your friends or families, and also maybe arrange some in-person meetings with your friends and families, or maybe becoming more involved in your communities to build some personal connections with other community members. These are all very good ideas or tips for staying connected socially. Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's pretty much like the one by one discussion about like what the tips like for improving our brain health. So let's quickly recap what we've just learned. In general, a key principle is that what is good for your heart is good for your brain. So the important elements of healthy living for your brain and body include getting quality sleep, being smoke-free, taking care of your mental health, being physically active and eating healthy, and challenging yourself and staying socially connected. All of these things have potential benefits. In fact, there is ongoing research into how engaging in multiple activities across these areas may have the greatest benefits for brain health. So you do not need to just go for one. You can go for like multiple things at the same time. So whenever possible, a general rule of thumb is like think about how you can make changes that affect more than one area at the same time to maximize the health benefits of your habits. For example, taking a walk. Maybe not alone, just take a walk with a friend or a family member will, combines physical activity with social engagement. So that's going to double the benefits. As many of you shared, as we shared, and you are thinking about how you can incorporate these factors into your life. I want to say that like make small changes that will have a significant impact, helping you to live as well as possible. It is never too early or too late to start building more healthy habits into your life. So before we wrap up today's program, let's quickly learn a little bit about Alzheimer's Association and some of the additional resources that we offer. So the Alzheimer's Association leads the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia. So we have we champion global research and then, driving risk reduction and early detection and then maximizing quality care and support. So we strive to build a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementia. So here are some good resources that you may consider using to help to improve your health or to prevent or to slow down Alzheimer's. So we do have a free 24/7 helpline on the screen. The number is 800-272-3900. So this number is available anytime, day or night, and provides access to highly trained and knowledgeable staff who can help with education, decision-making support, crisis assistance, and resource identification. And we also have a very resourceful website, alz.org, which publishes a lot of education materials and program informations covering a wide range of topics, such as the one that we're talking about today. Another resource is Alzheimer's Association and AARP community resource finder. So this resource finder includes a wealth of resources available in your area, including long-term care and community-based services and the local association offices and additional programs and other support services. I would suggest keep these information handy in case you need them. Yeah, so that's pretty much wrapping up my presentation for today. And that's perfect timing. As I said earlier, I have a hard stop at 1:30. Now it's 1:29. So I'm going to hand over the Q&A session to June. And then I'm saying bye to everyone. And thank you for being here. And it's a pleasure to be with you today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Hong.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful presentation, very informative.
Thank you.
I think it's, I think it just speaks to I think those are just excellent habits that we all have to do to stave off everything. No, that happens to us. That happens to us. So thank you.
They're good for everything. So.
Everything. Yes.
Yeah, for
thank
everything.
you so much.
Thank you so much, Joan, everyone. Bye. Thanks,
you.
June.
Thank you, Hong.
Okay.
So, if first off, Hong, you've been very nicely responding in the chat, but I appreciate if you'd read, or if you want me to read the questions and your answers. And then if anyone has any questions, please, while Hong is doing that, please use the raise hand function and we'll call on you.
So I did answer some of the questions already, but I will be reading them, just like Joan said. Our first question that I did see in the chat was from Karen. The terms dementia, Alzheimer's, senility, not widely used anymore, seem to be interchangeable. Are they different? So I answered yes. They are very similar. But of course, those three terms are very different as well, right? So when we think about dementia and Alzheimer's, we could think of dementia again as kind of like the umbrella term, right? That's a general term for the collection of symptoms, right? For that memory loss, the sudden ability changes, behavioral changes, et cetera, right? And under that general term of dementia, we got different types of dementia, which Alzheimer's is one of those types, which accounts for 60 to 80% of all dementias, right? So, while all Alzheimer's is dementia, right, not all dementia is Alzheimer's. Very simply, I always like to put it this way, very easily. Dementia is the word ice cream. Then we got different flavors under the word ice cream, where unfortunately Alzheimer's is the most popular flavor of the ice cream dementia. Right, we got other types of dementia called Lewy body dementia. We got frontotemporal dementia, mixed dementia, et cetera. Senility, though, that's more. It's a non-medical diagnostic term for that one, right? So that one's more so for a term used for normal aging, right? That's not diagnostic. Right. Whereas for Alzheimer's dementia, that is more of a neurological diagnosis. That's an official diagnosis that there is something in the brain, whereas senility is more so the normal aging aspect of, sometimes there is a lower, a decreased sense of vision, right? Or a decreased, reaction time, right? These are all part of normal aging. And that's where we kind of start seeing a lot of the word senility kind of being used nowadays, even though it's not really used too much anymore within the diagnostic centers. All right. Before I read on to the next question, does anybody have any questions they would like to say out loud? Unmuting themselves.
I do.
Oh, yes. Hi.
Hi. She spoke about being careful with vitamins. What is the
Yes.
issue with vitamin?
Mhm.
I always been told it's good to have vitamins, to take different types of vitamins. So, can you clarify a little bit more?
Absolutely. So definitely when we are talking about vitamin supplements, right? I know they are really good, but again, just because it does work for one person doesn't mean that's going to work well for you, right? We always want to talk with a healthcare professional, maybe our primary care physician, our geriatrician, just to make sure that we are taking the right vitamins. Because again, with one person, they might be taking a specific type of medication that you might not be taking, or vice versa, right? You might be taking a specific medication that they're not taking. But if we're gonna, if we take vitamin supplements willy-nilly, right, we don't know how that might also have side effects to the medications that you might be already taking, right? So it's very individualistic, right? We do want to have an individual plan, right, for vitamin supplements because again, everyone is different. Everyone has different pre-existing medical conditions too, right? Allergies, again, medications they're taking. So I always like to say, when in doubt, just always ask your primary care physician uh, if you feel like you need some more different types of supplements or vitamins.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for joining today. Yes.
I have a
know,
question.
go
Oh,
ahead. Who's that?
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me
yes.
okay?
I
Sure,
hear you.
who's
Okay.
talking? Yeah. Go
Yes,
ahead.
my name is Geneva, and I am younger than the usual persons who would have particular interests in Alzheimer's disease. I have a family history, excuse me, of dementia and of heart disease. So it was really good to hear about, the heart-brain connection and how it relates, to starting to suffer from dementia and or Alzheimer's. For a number of years, I had noticed, uh, uh, a decline in my cognitive skills, whereas I used to be, extremely sharp in a lot of different areas. And now I'm kind of just keeping my head above water. I had reached out to a number of Alzheimer's associations, but the problem seemed to be that I was quote unquote too young to be able to partake in any of those studies. So my question slash comment um, is there anything being done or anything being looked into that might allow a person, who's under 60, who does have particular concerns to be able to more actively, look into how and or I mean maybe not preventative because it seems that the preventative scale on this is very low as well as the cure, but just to be able to know what they're dealing with as they get older.
Absolutely. Thank you, Geneva, for your question. And I also want to state that it's never too young to know about Alzheimer's dementia because, honestly, it's a very big topic within today's world. And as we get more research going on, as we know more about treatments and as those treatments do come out, and as we know more about, how this affects everyone, not just those living with disease, but for neighbors, friends, as professionals, as whoever it might be, right? It's really important that we do raise awareness, and that's part of my job here, right? And just to kind of go back to a little bit what you said, also, we do have. It's very strange that they did say it's too young to do any trials because we do have clinical trials that require people of all ages, actually, and of
Well, I
all
just I
backgrounds.
just found one, but it happened, like I said, while I was in my 40s when I really
Right,
started noticing and,
mhm,
started doing the research on it and saying,
right,
okay, this family member had it, this family member had heart disease, died of heart disease, so there must
Right.
be some kind of connect the dots.
Right.
And I was always presented with, oh, well, we can use, your numbers as a baseline, come back to us later on, as opposed to maybe starting a trial with someone who's 40 who has concerns, and using their baselines on a more, on a larger scale, so that you already have the diagnostics. With me, it's kind of like now they're playing catch up and asking me to try to go back and find the different, whatever diagnostics I had, because I had done memory studies, and by the way, you might want to change them up if people are going to different doctors for a second opinion. If they take the same test, they might do the same result. That's just an aside. But other than that, like I said, just the mere fact that I was only able to just find a trial that was able to take me in my age group. I'm now 57. Like
So
I
I'm
said,
sorry.
it's just a little disconcerting.
What can she do? What would you suggest that she can do?
Absolutely. So we actually do have this tool. I don't know if you've used it and just recently got revamped. It's called Trial Match on our website, alz.org. So Trial Match, I also put the link in the chat too, so you'll have it at the end. Trial Match, that's where you can actually answer a few questions by yourself first, and then they're going to help you to connect you to the best possible tests that are available. We're linked with also like NYU Langone. We're also linked with, Mount Sinai. We're linked with Lincoln Hospital. Um, if you're in New York City, otherwise, this is a nationwide service that you can use too. Typically, once you put those questions, once you answer those questions by yourself, right, then that's when they're going to be able to kind of do a quick search in the database, see which ones would be best fit for you. Here, let me put that in the chat right now, actually, before I forget. Trial match should be alz.org/trial match. Again, this one you can use throughout the United States, even if you're not in New York City. I think that's a really great resource to use too, to get more access to different trials, clinical trials rather. So yeah.
Would it be,
Okay,
first off,
thank you.
Geneva,
Yeah.
thank you for being very candid and open, in front of all of us. But would it be helpful, like in a situation like this, to call that hotline that Hong talked about?
Absolutely. I think definitely the helpline is very useful, besides it being 24/7, right? You could definitely talk with mental health clinicians, just saying like, I'm seeing these types of symptoms. I have family history, or I have these kind of type of genetics, risk genes or deterministic genes, and I don't really know what to do. I think that's a really great resource because I've talked with the helpline before too, for on behalf of other caregivers that I've been talking to through my care consultations, and they kind of help you throughout the next steps, right? Like, so you're seeing these signs. Is it a sign that's big enough for you to seek help from first and foremost, maybe a primary care physician and or geriatrician? And if so, sometimes maybe they might also refer you out to your neurologist or a neuropsychologist, right? To get those MRI scans or PET scans, or even maybe a cerebrospinal fluid analysis, right? There's so many different tests and assessments where it's very, again, these tests and assessments are very individualistic too, where some people they might need to do more than one, I guess, assessment, right? Like, for example, the different, vocabulary assessments or like puzzle assessments or like memory assessments. Some might even need a screen for depression. Maybe some may need interviews with close companions too, where some others might not. Some might only require MRI scans. Some may require other scans or even a brain imaging scan. So it's very hard to put someone, on a very, I guess like a strict procedure, right? You do this, right? We kind of need to assess what's going on. How long has it been since you've, noticed some symptoms or signs within yourself or someone else? And then from there, that's where the mental health clinicians and care consultants can definitely help you to get that next step.
Okay, can you repeat that,
Okay.
that help number?
Yes, I also put in the chat too.
Oh, okay.
But let me re-put in the chat as well. Mhm.
Oh, okay, great.
Absolutely. I
Thanks
do see
so
your hand.
much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Geneva. And also thank you for attending today. Before I get to you, Ralph, I did see a question in the chat too. So once we do this one, I'll get to you. But I didn't forget about you. This one's from Maritza. I did see, I read that too much sugar in your diet can lead to diabetes 3, not 1 or 2, which is another direct connection to mental decline and possibly Alzheimer's. Do you have any further info on this? Thank you. Yes, so I did type in also in chat too for this one. All right. So while type 3 diabetes is, it's not an official diagnosis, right? It's more of an unofficial name for the pre-existing diabetes that affects your brain and that could lead to Alzheimer's dementia, right? So with that, right, even though it's not official, right, we do see research where we do see like, high levels of sugar, high levels of sodium, of course, right, that could contribute to either maybe one, a heightened, right, diabetes symptoms, if you already have it, which could also highly represent or resemble those symptoms that look like also Alzheimer's too, right? Whenever we are talking about Alzheimer's dementia, I always say, right, and also research also does say this too, we always want to rule out every other medical condition before we come to the conclusion that this is Alzheimer's dementia, right? Alzheimer's dementia should be the last step, right? After we explore, maybe it could be the diabetes that's really raging right now because of high blood sugar levels, right? Or something else that could resemble Alzheimer's, but might not even be Alzheimer's or dementia in total, right? It could be a thyroid condition. Maybe it could be high blood pressure levels, right? So again, we want to make sure that we're always exploring the other medical conditions before we come to a conclusion. Also, number two, right, it can also higher the risk of developing Alzheimer's, right? If we do have high levels of sugar, especially if you have diabetes. So we do see some correlation, but it doesn't mean that you're always going to be, getting Alzheimer's dementia because of diabetes. Hope that makes sense. And Ralph, it's you.
I'd like just to present an interesting event. I periodically listen to NHK World Japan, which is a news station that presents the world from the Eastern viewpoint. And they have a segment called Medical Frontiers. And this was a couple of years ago. I watched the particular segment, and what they did is that they went to a senior citizens home where people were showing signs of listlessness, lack of communication, just existing, so to speak. And they got them to volunteer for a study where they outfitted them with sensors to measure activities of the brain while doing various events. And the first test that they did, they gave them like 10 simple math tests, like, what is 10 minus 2? What is 15 divided by 5? And there was actually almost no brain activity that they could measure. Then they did something interesting. They had the group of people read out loud for 30 minutes. It did not make any difference what they were reading, but they had people read out loud for 30 minutes, and the activity of the brain exploded in terms of like fireworks on the 4th of July. They claim that with consistent verbal reading, the early stages of dementia were reversed, that the people became more engaged with others and they wanted to even speak with others more effectively and more frequently. Now, the question is this a placebo or is this actually, something that might be useful? I tried it myself. where I read out loud for 30 minutes. First of all, I found 30 minutes of reading to be exhausting. I could do 15 or 20, but
Right.
when I got to 30, it was like, well, I better stop. I'm really, really, really tired. But the interesting thing, after 15 or 20 minutes, I really do feel as though it's a brain stimulation.
Absolutely.
And the big question is that, well, is it a placebo or does it actually have an impact? But I was fascinated with the fact what they say that it reversed the early stages of dementia.
Absolutely. So, Ralph, to your point that you're talking about, right? So, when we're doing those especially for a person living with Alzheimer's dementia, right? Those new stimuli, so we're learning something new, right? If we're reading something that we've probably never read before, that's a new
Yeah.
stimulus for our brains, right? Whereas for those very simple math problems like 2 + 2, right? That's very instantaneous for us, right? And that's probably something very long, deep into our long-term memory because we've learned that since we were maybe 3 years old, right? When we are doing those new activities and when we're encouraging, so that's why we always, especially when I talk with caregivers or people living with dementia, right? I always like to encourage that, yes, we could do the physical activities to encourage that blood flow to the brain, right? And that's usually why we're starting to feel very refreshed, after a workout, right? It's because the heart is pumping the blood to the brain, which it needs for it to function, to send all those signals for those different activities of our body, right? But also the same thing happens when we are mentally stimulating ourselves, right? So a new stimuli with a new book, right? Or a new passage that we have to read out loud that we've never seen before, that's a new stimulus. And that can also help kind of exercise also, in a sense, right? It's exercising our neurons. And when we have those neurons, right, that's where it's going to be my little mini Junes inside my brain. That's where it's working. It's butt off to, catch up, right? And also to make sure that kind of, is doing all the things that my body needs to do in order for it to either retain it or to respond to it, right? So sorry, there's a bug in front of me. And so when we are having those new stimuli, that's why we always want to make sure that we're not doing the same repetitive activity over and over again that might seem boring or just almost automatic for this person living with Alzheimer's, right? Sometimes it does help, right? If we want to try to revert them from a very aggressive behavior to something more soothing, calming. If that repetitive behavior is soothing, calming, we definitely do want to encourage that. But on a daily basis, right? We do want to also, whether we read the book to them and they're listening to us, that's also new stimuli for them because they're hearing new words, right? So all these new stimuli can definitely help to slow down the progression of Alzheimer's and dementia, especially within the early stages too, when they are still able to somewhat also, right, kind of make out some of the vocabulary words, simpler ones, right? As for reversing the Alzheimer's and dementia, I would like to probably look into that because more so, we see that's more so, but it's also very hard to gauge because people with Alzheimer's, they have really good days, but sometimes they also have really bad days. So every day is a new day for someone living with Alzheimer's, I must admit. So I will definitely take a look into that. But that's kind of like the activity wise, that's what we typically like to recommend.
They were talking about the early stages of dementia and that alone. But the thing that was fascinating is that it's free and it's a non-pharmaceutical, and it's maybe
Absolutely.
worth a shot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, non-medical approaches, sometimes that even works even better than actual medication. I must admit, music therapy, art therapy, that is very much a very big thing that we always like to advocate for. Because again, it is those new things, those crafts, those music that they listen to, that's activating something in the brain and it's exercising the brain. So absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Ralph.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph. I mean, I'm a reader, so I read a lot, so that I'm going to actually try that. Maybe I'll start with 15 minutes and just read out loud. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Listen. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, John, were you going to say something else?
Well, in the chat,
Oh,
Roseanne
my
asked a
apologies.
question. Roseanne asked the question, it's
Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry, Susan. We'll hold you for a quick second. Roseanne said, how much is Alzheimer's research being affected by current cutbacks in research funding? Are there actions we could take to protest? In a very general term, let me tell you, public health in general, Alzheimer's, cancer, everything is, um, it's not looking too great. I'll tell you that much. As opposed to the actions, right? Focusing on the actions, we actually do have an advocacy team on the Alzheimer's Association of volunteers and also within our association staff members too, who are solely for advocacy. They actually are in DC right now, kind of meeting with different council members, meeting with different members of governments to make sure that our funding for Alzheimer's dementia is being taken account for. So yes, there are definitely a lot of actions. I can actually give you the website to our advocacy team as well if you are interested. They are always throughout the nation. We're always, it's a very real topic and it's very much needed. But of course, obstacles like this can, further delay a lot of the treatment options, a lot of the clinical trials, a lot of the different, even just anything, to be honest. So here, let me put the website in the chat. I believe it should be alz.advocacy. If it's not right, you could just look up advocacy on alz.org. All right. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. It's a very big topic. Go back to Susan.
Hi, thank you, June. Great information thus far. So I wasn't going to ask about this, but actually you're talking about, and the gentleman before Ralph talking about ways to stimulate people. My father died at age 96 and he had dementia. And he developed it started developing it around 90. So when he was 93, he went into a nursing home. They did not put him in a dementia unit. They put him just in a sort of regular general unit. And after he was there a couple of months, he kind of slipped into a state of kind of almost catatonia. He would just sort of sit there and stare out the window, et cetera, et cetera. So they put him on an antidepressant. I don't know which one, some typically usual one. And it takes like a month for them to work. Within a month, oh my God, his personality returned. And he spent his time sitting outside of his room and talking to everybody who went by. He was outside of the nurse's station. So they would chat and talk and he would laugh and joke. He really didn't know where he was. He didn't remember anybody, I mean, he knew who we were, but his family. But and then at some point in the state of New York, they have to take them off those antidepressants and then get a refilled prescription or something. The second they took him off it, he's back into the, catatonic kind of thing. So I've spoken to other people about this. Nobody's ever heard of anything like this. And this is just like some little nursing home, in a suburban area. So I just want to know if you know what I'm talking about.
Definitely with the medications, again, it is very individualistic, so I can't really speak too much about the medication portion. Of course, with the antidepressants, I do think that it, it requires definitely a very specialized or not diagnosis, but rather the prescription, right? If it was in the best interest, I definitely think that it's, we would definitely want to resort to that, right? Of course, there's so many different other factors too, right? If it was depression, right? Or if there's another condition that might have looked like depression, right? There's so many different ways that we can kind of, I guess, tackle it, both medication wise and both non-medication wise too. Medication wise, probably it was in the best interest for the antidepressants because it does seem like it actually did help, right? For your father. And, you know, with as we know, right, this Alzheimer's and dementia, right, it is a progressive disease. So ultimately, you know, it does get worse and worse as we get into middle and late stages. And if it's in the best interest for them to have really, you know, I guess a better time in their life with that, you know, then of course, right, that would be
So they're
probably
basically treating the depression rather than the disease of the, I see what you're saying. Okay.
right,
Yeah, that makes
right.
sense. Worked really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, June.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think something came in the chat. So I'll get to you, Karen, really quickly. Um, thank you. This person. Oh, sorry. No, this was not a question. But yes, thank you, Janet, for coming today to listen to this.
But actually in the chat, Roseanne added something interesting
Oh,
about
I
a
think.
reading program.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. So Roseanne also mentioned that there's a program called the Goodwin Living Stronger Memory Program, which includes the reading out loud. A workbook is available for free at that website. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, this is a great resource. I'm going to actually give me one second. I'm going to copy this. I would like to look into this too.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of ties into what Ralph was talking about
Absolutely.
with that site.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Back to you, Karen. I see your hand is up. So if you want to mute your mic.
Okay, I just have a quick comment. For one, thank you for your presentation.
Absolutely.
I volunteer in nursing homes, and I just want to share an example of stimulation. A few years ago, there was a woman who was really barely verbal. I don't know her diagnosis or anything, but she would say hello, and that's kind of about it. How was lunch? Good. And then one day I took her around the floor in her wheelchair and went in to show her the fish, but she saw the piano. She lit up as brightly as anyone can light up. And I brought her over to the piano and she started playing old fashioned songs. And after an extended period of time, I took her away, after a really long time. And she started singing those songs. So stimulation is extremely crucial. That's all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Karen, for sharing that. Yeah,
You're
no,
welcome.
absolutely. I agree. And especially when we are playing into their likes and preferences. And who knows, maybe that person that you were, you know, taking care of, maybe she was an avid piano player back in the days, and that just really sparked her long-term memory. And now she really wants to play piano, and now she's really happy. You know, it's things like that. It's the small things that you probably maybe, you know, might overlook from day to day, especially with those daily activities that we need to do, right? Like cleaning and cooking, that, you know, when we take into account of their interests, right? That could be a really great activity for them. And also, again, gives them the stimulus that you're talking about, Karen, and also Ralph talked about before too. So again, we want to make sure that, you know, no matter what stage, even if they are more chair bound, more bed bound, you know, they have a few words like Karen mentioned, right? We still want to respect the sense of self because it is still there. The sense of self is going to be there through the person throughout the entire disease. And we want to respect that. And we also want to make sure that, you know, we incorporate some things that are, you know, very, you know, within their preferences and likes and, you know, hopefully not the dislikes. Absolutely. I do think one's very strong activity that I've seen too, is going through photo albums because again, that's probably one of their longest long-term memory stimulus too. When they see pictures of them at Disney World in 1953, right? I know many times caregivers they say, "Wow, I didn't know the person could speak this many words," especially in the middle and late stages, because that sparks something, right? All right, so I do know that it's 2 p.m., Joan. I know there's other presentations too.
Yeah.
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 So
June,
do we
thank
have time
you.
for Susan's last question, Joan? Or
Sure, Susan.
Do you have to leave, June, or?
Yeah.
I'm
Oh.
good to stay for another 2-3 minutes. I just want to be wary of the time
Okay.
Yeah.
So
because I
maybe
know there's others.
So in putting my father into this nursing home, I checked out a bunch of places that had memory units, some assisted living, some nursing homes and stuff. And many of them that I walked into, people were all sitting around in the dark watching television or something. So which was one of the reasons it was great. My father was put into the general population where he could be interacting with other people. I mean, they had to have things on him so he didn't roam away. But is there anything like on the Alzheimer's Association website to help you identify a location and what they should be offering for people in a memory unit, for example? So that they're
Absolutely.
not sitting around with other people who are demented and nobody's doing any stimulation.
Right, absolutely. I think the best bet would be the community resource finder, which is also in the chat box too, where you can input a zip code, you can find the nearest, nursing homes, memory care facilities as well. You definitely want to check that off, right? When we are looking at nowadays, I don't know about I'll be completely honest, I only know really too much about New York City. So in New York City, if you put that zip code, you can actually put in like does this place have a specific dementia care facility within the facility or portion within the facility rather, right? So those are things that you definitely want to consider, right? And also when we are looking at different nursing homes too, again, we want to make sure that we do take a quick visit because it might look good on paper, but again, how they, how they present themselves on paper versus actually how it is. That's what we want to take a note. And I do actually have a resource too, which I'll send to Joan to send out to everyone too, if anyone's interested. Kind of like a checklist of what you want to, see or like what you might want to, check out when we're thinking about different living facilities. So yeah,
Wonderful. Thanks so much. That's very helpful.
June,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. I mean,
Absolutely.
this presentation, the one in April, were both wonderful. You are, I must say that you are a pleasure to, I mean, as is Hong, but you are really, a pleasure to listen to and present your obviously passion for this subject, and you're just very, very kind and very nice.
Oh, thank you so much, Joan. You
Yeah,
too.
so we thank you. Um so we will be in touch because
Absolutely.
actually there are other presentations that the Alzheimer's organization offers. So we will definitely be in touch, June, and we look forward to a continued um working with you.
Absolutely. And I'll send everything to Joan, who will probably send everything to everyone, right?
Yeah, we'll get it out to everyone. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so
Excuse me,
much, everyone.
Joan.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, I'm having trouble because I'm on my phone. I wanted to make sure, like I said, I got here in time. I wasn't able to access my computer, so I got on
Ah,
my phone, and I'm having trouble getting into the chat. And I
okay.
wanted to get the information about the reading aloud. So it's a general question or ask. If all of the different resources and stuff that were placed in the chat can be compiled on one document and sent to us or me or
So you know what? We you do have oh, no, well, I'm seeing you here. So you do have an email address and you have access to the internet?
oh yes.
Yeah. So you know what? The minutes are written up and included in the minutes, we typically include the slides from the presentation. So all that information will be posted in a few days on the
Oh,
OS
okay.
website. Okay?
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it will all be posted. Okay. And again, were you able to write down my email address?
I was, and I
Okay,
will
good.
be
So you can reach out
reach
to
out
me.
to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, June. Thank you very, very much. Okay. All right. All right. The next item on the agenda is the health insurance update by OSA retiree John Manning.
Hi everybody. John Manning here. Can you hear me? See me?
Yep. We here. See you, John.
Okay. Um, I imagine all of you are familiar with Marianne Pizzatola and the Retirees Organization. She has been they tried to stick us all in Medicare Advantage, and she has successfully fought this thing for years now. I just tried to post a link to the retirees website there. Forgive me if I did it wrong. I could talk to you. And also, one quick tangent here. She speaks very well of COMRO, the Council of Municipal Retirees Organizations. She said they were great. Now, we have retirees from the city, traditional Medicare and the Emblem GHI senior care. That's what I personally use. It's great. I go to NYU Lagon and Maimonides here in South Brooklyn. Um, and we actually, all things considered, we have pretty good health coverage. Okay. And they tried to replace it with this Medicare Advantage thing, which is basically a racket. Okay. It's definitely, without getting into it, which could take hours, you as a retiree have a far inferior policy. And particularly if you live outside of the city, most city retirees are in town or in the local suburbs. If you live outside of town, it can be very hard to find the right doctor, the right specialist. Traditional Medicare, which we paid into and whoever we worked for paid into for decades, is a great thing for us. All the top doctors and top facilities accept it. And as far as news is concerned from the retirees, we're all biting our fingernails on the New York State Court of Appeals. Technically, this is the last legal battle on the nuclear case over the Bentowski case. Theoretically, in the law, everything can go on, and you can always appeal something. But this is really if we win this case, it'll be wonderful news. If in the event the judges vote against us, it's not the end of the world. The struggle continues. Mary Ann is trying to get Council Bill 1096 enacted that would retain what the retirees currently have. And a lot of city council candidates getting behind this. And Rob, you and Megan, allow me to say here, forgive the tangent, Mary Ann is not one to hold grudges. She has been at war with Justin Brannan, the city councilman from South Brooklyn and chair of the finance committee for years. And it got a little bit nasty. Tonight on Mary Ann's Facebook show, she's going to be interviewing Justin Brannan, who got her endorsement. And anybody can key in to Facebook and you can ask Justin questions. And she said, thank you. Justin wrote an article in AM New York endorsing Bill 1096. He's come over to our side. In the event that the MLC leadership quit fighting us and comes over to our side, she's not going to, go for the juggler. She's going to welcome them as friends and allies. We should all be on the same page here. Our health benefits and our pensions, they work if they're properly managed. And before I landed the job as a staff analyst back in 1999, I was with MetLife for 8 years, right up the block at one Madison Avenue and one Penn Plaza. These insurance executives and consultants, I used to be in the trenches with them, battling with Cigna and Merrill Lynch for, corporate clients, blah, blah, blah. What they're trying to do, Emblem GHI has 1 million people. There are 750,000 actives and dependents, and there are 250,000 retirees. They're trying to grab this book of business and pick it apart and get what they can out of it, and the mess they leave behind is not their problem. This is a corporate power play. This is pure greed in action here. And we should all be united, and we should all be fighting this thing and sticking up for each other here on this thing. We have good health coverage with Emblem GHI and being hooked in to Maimonides, NYU Langone, Columbia Presbyterian, one of the main, and they want to stick us with some crappy HMO when you go to a clinic, where they have a free pair of cheap sunglasses for you or something. It's a lot of baloney. It's a phony. It's a fraud. We're New Yorkers. We're Americans. We have a right to speak truth to power. We have a right to freedom of speech. And we should all be on the same page on this thing. Marianne Pizzatola is very good about returning Facebook and Twitter messages. If you reach out to her, she'll get back to you. And she has evening shows at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock, usually on Friday night, but also during the week. She's going to be on tonight and at 6 interviewing Justin Brannon. She is doing this for us, okay? But as far as news is concerned, the two big newses are Bill 1096 before the City Council, which Speaker Adams is fighting tooth and nail, and Harry Garrido of DC 37 is fighting tooth and nail. Henry Garrido, excuse me. That and the Bentowski case up in Albany. We're also trying, they came back with copays for retirees, the $15 copays. We're fighting that too. It's a little bit harder. And as far as actives are concerned, I retired in December, 6 months ago, at NYU Langone when I was an active with Emblem GHI. They charged me $100 copay to get a CT scan. It used to be a $50 copay. These copays are premiums with a different label on them. Okay, that's all they are. And again, we should all be united together on this thing. Yeah, Marianne has a radio show on WBAI. And she's endorsed conservative Republicans, left-wing Democrats, mainstream Democrats. If you support health care and not screwing us out of our pensions and health benefits, she endorses you. Ms. Pentel, do you have a question?
Yeah, Eileen?
Yes, I do. You said that they're against Bill 1099 or something?
Bill 1096 is before the City
1096.
Council, and what it will do is guarantee what we currently have, the traditional Medicare, and the city pays for the supplement bill. It'll keep that.
And they're against it because?
No, but we sponsored it and we support it. Bill
No, I know, but Adams and this other person.
Council Speaker Adams is fighting it, and Mr. Garrido, the boss of DC 37 and one of the top people at the Municipal Labor Committee, they're fighting it with everything they have, and they should be on our side of the table. It's absurd on the face of. I mean, this is like an alliance between Joe McCarthy and Bella Abzug. That's how crazy, that's how insane this is. The Municipal Labor Committee and the labor, they should be supporting us.
I'm sorry, if you could just briefly, because I apologize, we have to move on, briefly state why they're against it. I think that's maybe what Eileen wants, right, Eileen? That's what you want to know is why
Yes.
is Adams and Garrido against it? That 1096.
You know, the old saying about politics, money talks, bullshit walks. Okay. I mean, these people are responding to lobbyists. Okay. What am I supposed to think? Okay. I can tell you as an 8-year veteran of MetLife, the insurance consultants and advisors and lobbyists, they're all conflicted. They don't give you advice. They don't consult. They play hardball to go after market share and intimidating and bullying people who stand up to them, whether they're corporate executives or labor leaders or an insurance agent or broker who was honest, elbowing them out of the deal. You know, that's what they're there for. They're not there. They do not have our interests at heart here. They certainly do not. Okay.
Can I just give you another background thing? I'm with Brooklyn Queens National Organization for Women. We endorse, with the elections coming up, we send out a questionnaire. Adrienne Adams is good on many things, but she never brought to the committee, out of the committee, the 24-hour bill. Home health aides have to stay, if they stay for 24 hours, which is very difficult, they'll only get paid for 12 or 13 hours. And she won't even bring it to the floor. And because of that, we could not endorse her. So that's just added information.
Okay, thank you.
My grandmother was the Brooklyn chair, Louise Gross, of the Women's Suffrage Party. I don't suppose you knew her. That was back in 1980.
I've heard her name.
So I'm sorry, I apologize. If there's no other new updates, but I thank you, John. But there is a question, Hank's hand
Hank
is
Berlin,
raised.
do you have a question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So yes, I just want to add that the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees has also issued a list of the mayoral candidates in the primary who they believe are supporting the retirees' position on the Medicare thing, and their support is based on written commitments from the candidates to back retirees on the Medicare issue. Those candidates that they have found to be supportive of us retirees are Brad Lander, Scott Stringer, Jim Walden, Andrew Cuomo, interestingly, and Michael Blake. Notable for their absence is not only Adrienne Adams, but Mandami and Myray. So
Mary
I
Ann
also
Test is signing this letter endorsing Bill 1096 before the City Council and otherwise supporting traditional Medicare and not Medicare Advantage or this HMO that they're trying to push on the actives now. Okay.
Who did you say?
She's Mary Ann Pizzatola, the head of the retirees organization. Her litmus test, if you will, is if you're running for city council, a mayor, or controller, she wants you to sign this letter endorsing keeping retiree traditional Medicare and GHI emblem supplement traditional Medicare A, B, and D. That's now, as far as our favorite candidate for mayor, there's a right honorable gentleman named Jim Walden. He's running as an independent. He's neither a Democrat or a Republican. He got the petition signatures and he's qualified for matching funds. And once the Democratic primary plays itself out, you're going to be hearing a great deal about him. Jim Walden is a career lawyer who has a successful law firm, and he's a former prosecutor at the Eastern District. And his firm, incidentally, represented the retirees in this multi-year battle to preserve traditional Medicare. But go to Jim, just go to Google and Jim for New York City. You're going to like what he sees. Jim is an honest man. He will not tell you this, then go into the next room and tell them that. He's an honest man, and he's not for sale. And that's
also, if I could just finish, I think it's also interesting to note that the leadership of OSA in their last newsletter, recommended 5 candidates in the mayoral primary: Lander, Stringer, Ramos, who has since pulled out, Mandani, and Adrian Adams. So I think it's interesting that half of the existing candidates in the mayoral primary who the union is recommending will not support the retirees' position on the Medicare. And I would also lastly like to say that in the controller debate the other night between Justin Brannan and Mark Levine, Brannan spoke forcefully in support of our position on keeping our Medicare. Mark Levine equivocated and he would not commit.
All right, thank you. Actually, you know what, I don't have it in front of me. I mean, thank you both. I do think that, I mean, just in the, to be accurate, I do think that some of the people that OSA is suggesting or recommending are on board with the retirees. They are the top 5, and again, I don't have it in front of me, are that some of them are definitely supporting the retirees. So just in the interest of accuracy, you know, what
Not
Ozark.
according to the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees.
Okay, well, why don't you, you know, I'm not going to get
And
into
you can see it in the if you go to the OSA website under
Sure. I
their
mean, you
most
know what?
recent
And that's what
newsletter,
every
it
and
specifically
Hank,
states
that's
it.
what everyone should do. The information is on is on OSA, the information is on PSR, and everyone can do the comparison of that. Okay. Thank you
And
so
also at
much.
nycretirees.org.
Yep, it's in the chat. It's in the chat. Thank you. Thank you both, you know, John, thank you very much. Okay. Last, very final business is, that again, this is our last meeting.
Joan, before you do that, could you give me the chance to just mention the thing on Saturday?
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry guys, I just wanted to remind you that on Saturday
Oh,
is
yes, I'm so
the No
sorry.
Kings mass protest. OSA is organizing a contingent to march. We're gathering at 1:30 in an area called Grace Plaza, which is at the corner of 43rd Street and 6th Avenue. So it's about a half hour before the start of the march. The march goes from Bryant Park down to Madison Square Park, and afterwards folks are going to come back to the office of the union for probably a little debrief and things of that sort. If you're interested and you haven't signed up for it, I'm going to put a link in the chat, which is a link to a Google Doc where you can fill out your information and let us know you're coming. It helps us on planning and also to sort of get you into a sort of a phone chat for the day so that we can stay in touch with each other. It can get a little, the one when we did this for the hands-off protest on April the 5th and the May Day protest, it got a little bit busy. So sometimes people got lost and we were able to text to people to let them know where we were at and things of that sort. So it's an important demonstration. Showing large numbers would be very important and obviously made all the more urgent by what's been going on in Los Angeles. And I understand recently that the federal government in this administration intends to possibly ramp this up and expand their goals from Los Angeles to 5 other quote unquote sanctuary cities, one of them being New York.
And actually, if I can add on, and again, I apologize, I got a little off the agenda, so I'm sorry, Rob, that I
It's
didn't
okay.
introduce you. So also, the just so that you know, there are also rallies in other places besides Manhattan. I know that many of you, you know, some of you don't even live in New York City, and there are people, you know, retirees who prefer not to be in Manhattan. So there is one in Forest Hills, Queens. There's, I think, two in Brooklyn. I don't know exactly where. There are some in Long Island. I know one specifically, Garden City. But if you just go online and look up June 14th rally, it will give a list of all of the locations. You know, there's ones in lots of them going on in New Jersey, lots upstate. So they're all over the place, you know, so you can,
I just put the link in for that in
okay.
the
So you
chat.
can, thank you. So you can also just pick what's convenient for you. You know, like I said, Manhattan might not be convenient for everyone.
Rob and Joan, I I have my two university degrees are in political science. I find the Donald Trump groupie show to be the strangest thing one can possibly imagine. In American popular culture, the poor boy who becomes successful is a character we admire. The rich kid with a sense of entitlement is not. In that context alone, I find it I find this to be ridiculous. And but I don't know, politics is a funny and strange game sometimes. And not to beat this into the ground, Rob, the MLC leadership, they should be on our side of the table, not the insurance company executives and consultants who are trying to milk this thing for windfall profits. I happen to be a Republican. I have never voted for Trump. I voted for Hillary instead of Trump because she had a great student loan policy. I don't know what people see in Mr. Trump. It's uh, but look, there's another election in the 2.5 election cycle in 2.5 years, and he can't go for a third term. So we'll see what the future brings.
Right, right. All right. I appreciate the fact that we can all talk about this civilly and and bring up our, you know, some people like John, you've been very candid again about your, you know, political leanings. And I think it's, you know, the fact that we can all have a conversation about this again civilly is a good thing. So anyway, this is our last meeting for the season. We'll resume in September. We have a list of presentations that topics that we're considering, and um, we really need your feedback. We really we want to address topics that all of you are interested in. I'm going to be very honest. 2 years ago, we sent out a survey and we got a nice response of around 70 people responded. And last year we sent out a survey and we got very few responses. We use our judgment. And when I say we, it's pretty much Susan and myself and Colleen and Mark and Colleen. We really just would appreciate, we really want to hear from you. We really, really want to and need to hear from you. So my email address is again, joan.burvoy@gmail.com. Let us know what topics you're interested in. If you know people, we'll then do the legwork. You know, if you're working in your medical lives, your personal lives, whatever, with different groups, organizations that you feel have information to give us, you know, that can give to Ozark, please tell us. We'll do the legwork. That really is how we get, you know, many of our speakers. It's just that I'm involved in certain things, so I reach out to those people. Susan attends health chats in Brooklyn with New York Presbyterian, so she's been in touch with them. So any information you can give us, we really appreciate. And I think also that you see that I was giving the health insurance report. We've asked John to give it. You know, John is involved with PCSR. We try, you know, Ozark is neutral, but we are here for information, and so he's been giving, the information. We encourage that. Even, any participation that you can offer us, we encourage it. So on that note, first off, are there any comments to that? No comments. Okay. Have a great summer. Be well. And we will see you in September.
Joan,
Yes.
do you have a few minutes to talk now, or would you rather that we try to set something up later on? This is Geneva again.
Yeah, so the thing is that this Zoom it's on OSA's account, so they need to get.
Oh no, I mean for me to call you offline.
Yeah, but I'm not going to give my phone number out.
Oh.
Very honestly,
I'll email you my phone number, and then you can call me. How's that?
Yes, I'll get right to that. I apologize, but I'm just not going to announce my phone
No,
number.
I get it.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
By the way, Joan, Eileen put in there that she wanted to remind you that she suggested something about decluttering.
Yes, we have that. Yes.
Whereas they should come to my house where I want to clutter. I need to have more clutter. Sorry.
I think I declutter, and I still see there's just so much. Okay, Geneva, what's your phone number?
Oh.
If you want to.
I was just going to email you my phone number.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, email me your phone number, and then we'll get in touch. Okay.
Yes.
Bye.
All right. Good. Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everyone. See you in
Bye-bye.
September.